o'clock or a little after 7, I'd like to call this meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order. If I could have acceptance of the agenda, please.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And, next thing is walk-in period. Are there any walk-ins here tonight? Okay, not seeing any. Paul, there you are, Paul. The next is a discussion and a vote for a school bus lease, school buses. Yes. I was reading it over. I'll let you handle it, Paul, but it looks like 3.
Great. We went out to bid on this thing probably around August. We came back with a payment plan in an agreement from O'Connor Bus out of Maine, who since turned around and leased it to a Sun Trust Corporation out of Texas, which is a bank for the leasing company. So we've been wrangling back and forth on legal terms and Dodd-Frank, I think, because they want everything. They wanted 3 years' worth of financials. They wanted this year's financials, which we didn't have. They weren't done. They wanted all kinds of different things. So it's been going back and forth. We originally had it set up for the school committee to approve, which the school committee did approve at their meeting. And we since found out from our lawyers and from the town's lawyers that the town is the entity, not the school department. We are a department of the school, of the town, so.
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Sure, go right
Paul,
ahead.
can you just start a little bit, I mean, I read these documents, they're a little bit confusing here.
Oh, yeah.
What are you trying to do? I know there's 3 buses.
Yeah.
Are you leasing them or are you buying them?
We're gonna lease 3 buses.
But there's like a balloon payment in year 4
Yes,
of
for
150.
if we decide to own them, which we may, after 3 years, we can buy them outright, all 3 of them for $50,000 each, for another $150,000.
So, or after 3 years, you just say, we've leased it, we're done with it.
We may do that, yes.
You can, you have the option.
We
to do
can, we can do that, yes.
that. Okay.
So what we're getting into is $33,000, or $34,000, I think it is.
Right.
Right. Per year.
For year 1, and year 2, the exact same for year 2, and then the exact same for year 3.
Okay.
33,689.36.
I just was gonna say, do you have, not a motion just
Nope.
yet, I was just.
Okay. No.
I like Tony, I had a lot of questions. I called John, because, I mean, this is, it's a lease that only John could understand, I think. So I called a friend who runs a bus fleet.
Right.
And before he got back to me, he made a phone call to the company we're dealing with, and the salesman, I have his name here somewhere. But he said it's probably a good thing for the town to do. In fact, when he buys new buses, that's what he's gonna do.
Right.
You
That
get
would be
brand new
Ben
buses-
Johnson?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
exactly who it was. Yeah, and I forget the name, I have the company written down. But anyway, we do the maintenance there.
They have the-
Maintenance is on us.
Yep.
Right,
The
right.
oil, tires, any minor maintenance repairs, any major maintenance repairs is on the O'Connor up in Maine.
Okay. What made you do just 3, and it's just, this is a trial thing, you might do 3 more after this? What's the plan?
We had
What's the-
$90,000 appropriated to us a year and a half, 2 years ago at the annual town meeting to get a bus.
Right.
We needed more than 1 bus. We have an aging fleet, as you have seen as you go by here. And we hadn't had a bus in a few years. So with John, when John came on board, John McCarthy, we looked at options on how we could get some more buses. John has a vision of basically combining the start times at the high school in Gates to pretty much similar, so we're gonna need some more buses to be able to get the same start times at the high school and Gates. Right now, we're running a 4-tier bus system. So we usually have 2 elementary schools start at one time, 2 elementary schools start at a half an hour later. The high school starts at 7:18, and Gates starts at 7:50. So there's a half an hour between all these 4 tiers, 2-hour buses that we're running out there. So we looked around, we talked about it, we were gonna go out and get one bus, but we knew that wasn't gonna be enough. So we looked at options. We called in a transportation expert that we knew. We talked to him about it, and he goes, how about leasing? So we went out to lease to own, and we were thinking of that, and we found out that it was gonna be less cost prohibitive than owning a bus. Basically, what this bus costs is about $72,000 list price. We're paying upwards of $85,000 a bus right now from whatever we go out to bid, whoever bids on these buses. So this is basically a $72,000 bus at list price with $9,000 worth of leasing costs on top of it. If you do the cost-benefit analysis, and I'm getting 3 of them, and I'm not coming back for the town to ask for $270,000. I'm asking them for $35,000, $34,000 one year, $34,000 next year, and $34,000 the year after that. And we may or may not buy, there is a residual value for each one of these buses at $50,000 each at the end of the 3-year lease, and we may or may not own it. We haven't quite decided how we're gonna handle all that yet. So, this gets us 3 new buses in our fleet.
I just had a quick question. So if Gates and the high school are running at the same time, you've got more buses?
That's not the way it's going this year.
Oh, okay.
That's next year.
But eventual, so
Eventual,
does
that's
that mean,
what-
obviously that means there'll be more drivers on the road at the same time, right? Will there be more drivers in the buses?
Yes, because Gates is our biggest ridership, yes.
Okay.
There
Can
would
you-
be,
Can
probably.
you combine them? The students?
Depends where the school is.
Yes,
Yeah, all right.
yeah,
okay.
that's what we're hoping to do.
Okay.
Yep,
All right. And finally, by doing this, no one's losing their job, the current drivers. Good.
nope.
That's
And
it.
how's this gonna affect your budget? So you've got,
I have $90,000 in the capital article that was 2 years ago. So I talked to Tricia when we first thought about this, and she said, yes, you can use that for capital leasing.
so for
which we
3
did.
year, you'll just.
3 years, I'm gonna have to probably come back for another $5,000. I think we got 90, and I think this comes out to be $99,000 or $98,000. So in year 3, we'll definitely know what we're gonna be doing by then. So, and how is this all gonna shake out?
Trish, didn't you say that you had done this and, did you lease? Did you
Yeah,
do that?
actually, most school systems lease their bus. Very few own them.
Yeah.
Hingham does it.
Okay. Questions,
Hingham,
comments? Oh, Mara, I'm sorry.
I just have a question that maybe Trish or someone we can get some clarification on. Since the money was moved from free cash within the confines of a capital plan, does that cover the definition of a capital expense if it's just a straight lease? Does it have to be leased to own? I don't know the answer to that question, but
Capital's defined as anything over 25,000 with a useful life of 5 years or more. So the 35 still puts it in capital. You'll always review the request, because it's not so much driven by the cost either. It's driven by, you know, a capital arrangement for the town in terms of a large spent item.
okay, so it does fall within that?
Yeah, it'll still go through. And Capital's meeting right now, and Dave just asked me that question. Dave Capel.
Questions, comments? If not, I accept a motion, and then I think the clerk has to read something into the minutes.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to accept and endorse the resolution of governing body, Exhibit C, as it pertains to SunTrust Equipment Finance and Leasing Corporation. Master lease agreement, lease number 09218 for Scituate School Department buses.
Second.
All right, I have a
Oh, I
motion.
have to
and
read
a
it.
second, all those in favor?
Aye.
If you wouldn't mind reading this page, a little over a page. for the record.
At a duly called meeting of the governing body of the lessee held in accordance with all applicable legal requirements, including open meeting laws, on the 29th day of October, 2013, the following resolution was introduced and adopted. Resolution authorizing the execution and delivery of a master lease agreement, equipment schedule number 01, and related instruments, and determining other matters in connection therewith. Whereas the governing body of the Town of Scituate, Massachusetts lessee desires to obtain certain equipment described in equipment schedule number 01 to the master lease agreement, collectively the lease, between SunTrust Equipment Finance and Leasing Corporation who's the lessor, and the lessee, the form of which has been available for review by the governing body of lessee prior to this meeting, and whereas the equipment is essential for lessee to perform its governmental functions, and whereas the funds made available under the lease will be applied to the acquisition of equipment in accordance with such lease, and whereas lessee has taken the necessary steps, including those relating to any applicable legal bidding requirements to arrange for acquisition of the equipment, and whereas lessee proposes to enter into the lease with SunTrust Equipment Finance and Leasing Corporation substantially in the form presented to this meeting. Now therefore be it resolved by the governing body of lessee as follows. Section number 1. It is hereby found and determined that the terms of the lease in the form presented to this meeting and incorporated in this resolution are in the best interests of the lessee for the acquisition of the equipment. Section number 2, the financing documents and the acquisition and financing of the equipment under the terms and conditions as described in the financing documents are hereby approved. The superintendent of schools of lessee and any other officer or lessee who shall have power to execute contracts on behalf of lessee B, and each of them hereby is authorized to execute, acknowledge, and deliver the financing documents with any changes, insertions, and omissions therein as may be approved by the officers who execute the financing documents. Such approval to be conclusively evidenced by such execution and delivery of the financing documents. Mr. Attorney, what is that? I missed that. The last, on section 2, last paragraph.
There, what's to be filled in?
The, what?
Must be the governing body.
Okay, the governing body of lessee and any other office of lessee who shall have the power to do so, B, and each of them hereby is authorized to affix the official seal of lessee to the financing documents and attest the same. Section 3, the proper officers of lessee B, and each of them hereby is authorized and directed to execute and deliver any and all papers, instruments, opinions, certificates, affidavits, and other documents, and to do or cause to be done any and all other acts and things necessary or proper for carrying out this resolution and the financing documents. Section number 4, pursuant to Section 265B of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 as amended, lessee hereby specifically designates the lease as a qualified tax-exempt obligation for purposes of Section 265B(3) of the Code. This resolution shall take effect immediately.
Thank you, Marty.
Wait, Marty, there's more on page 2?
No,
Second page.
that's actually for the school department, so.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Paul, appreciate it.
Do we have to make a motion on that, or not?
We did, motion second,
that
then he
includes-
read that. All right. Okay, next agenda item are some.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks again. Street improvements and vote some betterments as well for Pine View and Cushing Estates. Hi, Al, how are you?
Thank you, fine. Good
Al,
evening.
Good evening.
How you doing now?
All right, this is the culmination of a process started, I would guess, now 2.5 years ago, which was to re-energize the street acceptance process in Scituate. The chairman of the Board of Selectmen is the chairman of the Street Acceptance Committee, and that committee established a procedure whereby folks could bring in their streets, petition the selectmen. The committee would detail the engineering department to go out and do estimates of what it would take to bring these streets up to town standards. The citizens had the opportunity to agree to that and sign off. You voted then betterments. The town voted to accept these streets on the basis of betterments being initiated. And so now the work has been completed. We've had actually very rewarding, positive feedback from the residents on all 4 of these streets, Hickory, Persimmon, Pineview Drive, and Pineview Circle, about the improvements that were made to their streets, as well as the quality of the construction crews that did the improvements and such. So it was all in all a very long process, but I think rewarding in the end for all. So now this is the time to pay our bill, step up to the bar and pay our tab, if you will. And so I'm here to tell you that The betterments that we presumed we might have for these streets are higher than what the actual betterments will be. And so that we're here to ask now that you initiate the betterments. It'll go on what will happen if you choose to vote this way. Then the residents will receive within a week a bill from the treasurer collector saying that this betterment has been assessed against your property, and the resident has 30 days to come in and pay that bill in full. Otherwise, it gets rolled, apportioned rather, over 20 years against their property at 1/20th per year with a 5% interest charged on the outstanding balance.
Can I interrupt? Can I just jump in? Same as the sewer, correct?
Very similar to the sewer,
Okay.
yes.
All right, if not, that's close enough. Now, you live on one of these streets, 5 years down the road, you're decided to have it in your taxes every year. 5 years down the road, you decide to sell. So that's just, so when someone looks up what Al paid for taxes, is it broken out
Yes.
separate?
There's a line on your tax bill, and in fact, if you're selling, the attorney for the buyer will go down and find out that there is this lien on the property. And so at that time, you have a choice of asking at the time of sale, that it be paid off or not. Generally, what happens, I understand, is that if you sell the property, the bank that's going to take over the new buyer's mortgage responsibility would want that lien taken care of before the sale is completed. So usually the lien is cleared at the time of sale.
Okay, sorry to interrupt, all right.
No, you're right.
Let's see, so I've taken it through. The residents have all signed up for this, petitioned, knew what the cost would be, agreed to that. And in this case now, for Hickory and Persimmon, the total cost to complete the renovation of those streets and bring them up to like new standards, so that the rest of us in the town, when we take on these streets and responsibility forever, are taking on a new subdivision street, just as we would if it was a newly built subdivision. And that seems fair, because newly built subdivisions have to be built to our standards when they become public. So now these are renovated subdivision streets to our standards and will be taken over by us, the public. The total cost of Persimmon and Hickory was $96,000, spread across 8 abutting properties, which would bring that betterment to around $5,335 per property.
18 abutting properties. That's okay. Just your numbers work.
Yeah.
It's 18.
I'm sorry?
It's 18 of properties, Al. You said
18
eight.
residents.
18 properties.
Yeah, oh, I said it wrong, sorry.
It's all right.
Off the top of my head, I thought I'd written down, but off the top of my head, I don't have what that was relative to the amount we originally told the abutters. Do you remember offhand? Yeah.
So it's less.
So it's about 1/5 less than what we had told them. On Pineview and Pineview Drive, the total cost of that project is $132,000 spread across 10 abutters. So the cost per family there is $13,200 per family. And what was the estimate for that? 160?
150, 160.
Yeah. So this is $30,000 less than originally planned. So what I'm pleased is that we established an estimate high enough to cover what the cost might be, and we came in well under those costs, so that everyone is made whole in this. Any questions that I can answer for you?
Like a motion?
If everyone's all set, sure.
Move the Board of Selectmen order as follows. The total cost of the improvements to Persimmon Drive and Hickory Lane of $96,047 is hereby determined, of which 100% is hereby assessed as betterments on the 18 properties abutting these streets, being those properties who benefit from the improvement project beyond the general advantage to the community. The final cost to be assessed per property as a betterment assessment is $5,335.94 per property under sections 1 and 2 of Chapter 80 of the general laws. Said betterment assessment shall be certified to the Board of Assessors to then be committed to the tax collector pursuant to Section 4 of Chapter 80 of the general laws.
Second.
Have motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And the second one, if someone wants to read for the,
Sure, move the Board of Selectmen order as follows. The total cost of the improvements to Pine View Drive and Pine View Circle of $132,038 is hereby determined, of which 100% is hereby assessed as betterments on the 9 properties abutting Beech Tree Farm Road, being those properties whose benefit from the improvement project beyond the general advantage to the community. The final cost to be assessed per property as a betterment assessment is $13,203.80 per property under sections 1 and 2 of Chapter 80 of the general laws. Said betterment assessments shall be certified to the Board of Assessors to be committed to the tax collector pursuant to section 4 of Chapter 80 of the general laws.
Thank you. I actually have a typographical error in there. I
Beech
apologize
Tree
for that.
Farm isn't
Yes,
connected
yes,
to-
I
That's what I was
deeply
just gonna-
apologize.
Yeah. Abutting,
I'm not sure how you'd like to correct this, but in there,
say,
it's-
strike Beech Tree Farm Road and say these streets?
yes, and it should say betterments on the 10 properties abutting these streets.
do you want to try to correct that, John?
I apologize for putting it through this.
No, I
rework.
just,
It's
when
embarrassing.
John had read it, if you
Wait.
just want to
All right, so-
reword it.
Just move the 10 and move the changing of that. No, sorry.
All right, did you second the motion that I did?
No.
No, not yet.
Nobody.
I did, okay. I just, I'll just read it again. The total cost of the improvements of Pine View Drive and Pine View Circle of $132,038 is hereby determined, of which 100% is hereby assessed as betterments on the 10 properties, abutting these streets, being those properties who benefit from the improvement project beyond the general advantage to the community. The final cost to be assessed per property as a betterment assessment of $13,203.80 per property under sections 1 and 2 of Chapter 80 of the general laws. Said betterment assessments shall be certified to the Board of Assessors to be committed to the tax collector pursuant to section 4 of Chapter 80 of the general laws.
Second.
There we go.
I have motion and a second. Thank you, John. All those in favor?
Aye.
Al,
Mr.
thank you. We got a,
Can I interrupt
Sure,
something,
go ahead,
Wayne, just Al, while I have you here, Mr. Chair, about similar subject but a different place? Can you just brief us on what's the statuses of Walnut Tree with those, or Walnut Hill subdivision? Because I know they were working through the street acceptance as well. I've
Yes.
just been getting a bunch of calls on it, I'm just kind of
Have you?
wondering.
Okay. Yes, Walnut Tree Hills, it has entered into the street acceptance process. You know the long and storied
yeah,
history
yeah,
and,
all that, yeah.
And the planning department has done a great job of getting the bonding agent for the defunct developer to complete all of the repair work, rather to complete the project. They don't do repair work. What they do is they get it to where it should have been in the first place.
Yeah.
Okay? And what we told the property owners a year ago, it still stands, which is that the town has assumed responsibility for the streetlights.
Yeah.
And we have assumed responsibility for snow plowing because they're going through the street acceptance process. And that has, that's consistent with what we've done on these streets, for
Yeah,
instance,
yeah,
when,
that's what
although it hadn't been finalized, okay. So, there is still some assessment to do of, now it is a, 13-year-old subdivision and 13-year-old set of paving, 13-year-old set of, catch basin issues and all that. So, what we'll do is we will go through and take a look now and say, okay, now that it has been built as it should have been 13 years ago, are there any deficiencies that the public would be having to assume if the public takes it on as a street? And then if there are costs associated with repaving it, as an example, then we and the planning department will work with the bonding agent and the butters to make sure that that gets all squared away. So we're not in a glide slope to do it in the fall, we're in the glide slope to wrap this up in the spring.
All right, excellent. Thank you
was a
so much.
meeting about a month or two ago, and the association had a couple of representatives here, and I
Yes.
can't remember their names, but they were up to speed at that.
Okay,
Yes.
great. All right, thanks, Al.
It's hard to stay in touch with the entire population there.
Yeah,
There's
no,
not
I
a
know.
method of doing that, so I think the more we can keep you informed, so when you get asked the questions,
That's right.
the better we'll all be served, so.
I appreciate that, Al.
Okay.
Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item number 5 is a discussion, a vote sewer betterment for the Squashkit Pond phase of our
Okay.
project.
This is a project started in, started in earnest in around 2009, when we assigned an engineering firm to look at the actual engineering of expanding the sewer to District 1A, which we'll call Musquashkett Pond area. This involves 320 properties, construction of all new sewer distribution receiving lines, and a pumping station in the area. The project was in essence completed in the fall. The final punch list items have just been completed. The total costs have been determined. The total costs are well below what was estimated. We initially estimated 9 years in '09 that this would be a $6.4 million project. It is 9% below that. The final cost is $5,843,000, saving a little over $500,000 in this project. So we're happy that this one has come in. The residents, by and large, are happy to have sewer in the area. There are some people who are disappointed by the fact that they had, over the last 10 years, 5 years, and even 4 years, completed Title V Title V septic systems, and now they're being confronted with a new sewer and a betterment associated with that. And then one or two will come in and want to talk about abatements for that, and that's a separate topic for another time, okay? So this project is now done, and we're ready to initiate betterments. There are 7 homes along on Hatherley who previously paid for an emergency hookup to the sewer system, and consistent with what was done in Phase 1 and 2 of sewer projects, and consistent with what was done on Rosa's Lane, I think, sewer project, yes. What happens is the properties that previously paid a connection fee to connect to the sewer on an emergency basis are forgiven that previously paid fee. So in this case, the betterment is $18,886, and for those properties that had previously connected, they received the betterment minus the $9,652 that they previously paid. So that's called a privilege fee. So they'll be paying a privilege fee of $11,934 since they'd already paid the other piece, and then the remaining 312 properties will pay $18,886. Okay?
Now, just one quick question. I know on that, there were a couple of change orders also that came in that, and that is included in the 5.8.
Absolutely, every one of those.
So even with all the things where they found more rock and they had to do more
Yeah.
stuff, it all
Yeah.
came in under what we
Yeah,
had projected.
quite a few bites out of the scalp out of that, but nonetheless, it is managed. We have to have a process when you have an expectation what will be spent, and if it's going to cost more, that there's some stress put back in the system to ensure that we're only paying the additional that we need to pay. But in the end, we're still, from the resident's viewpoint, I would say it was a well-managed project. We're happy with the construction company, Albanese Brothers. We're happy with the way that the engineering firm did the engineering and the construction management. That was Weston and Sampson. And we hope on future projects that they continue to apply to offer their services, and that if successful in winning the bids, that they do as well as they've done in future projects as they did in this one.
I just have to say, I remember going to the first meeting when the company went to Pier 44 and met with a large group of neighbors, and right from the very beginning, they were very forthcoming. This is who we are and everything, and we might have a letter here tonight we'll read into the minutes later on.
Oh.
Just went very, very well.
Okay, good.
And thank you, Al, and Kevin as well. And hopefully, like you said, I thought that was gonna be a pretty difficult project with the groundwater and so forth.
Yeah.
Very happy to hear.
All right.
I'll accept a motion if someone wants to read one? I
Move
think
the
there are
Board of
two.
Selectmen order as follows. The total cost of the project of $5,843,000 is hereby determined, of which 98.6% is hereby assessed as betterments and 1.4% as a privilege fee upon the parcels in the Musquashnet Pond Sewer Project area, being those who benefit from the project. The cost to be assessed per sewer unit as a betterment is $18,886 under Section 15 of Chapter 83 of the General Laws. The cost to be assessed as a privilege fee is $11,934 under Section 17 of Chapter 83 of the General Laws. Said amount is hereby certified to the Board of Assessors to be committed to the tax collector pursuant to Section 4 of Chapter 80 of the General Laws.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Now, before you leave, when, is there a committee that's looking at the next stages of the sewer? I know it's,
Yes, there was a plan developed in the late 90s, early 2000s, for a phased approach, rolling out the sewer. There are a number of new conditions now with a number of changes in development, areas of development, sewer issues, septic issues, that sort of thing. So we've asked, while they're still current on this, Weston and Sampson to take a look at the whole phasing and see if there's anything we should do differently than just go ahead with the next phase. And they are going to be doing that for us.
okay.
And capacity looks pretty good to move on to the
Yeah, the
next
capacity is
phase.
doing quite well. The I&I work that was started by the previous administration and that we've carried on with is, I think, developed capacity for us. It's been fairly inexpensive capacity by fixing leaks. We're going to be starting shortly with something we think that will help capacity by reducing sump pumps being attached to the system, which we fear there are more of than we would like to have.
When do you, Al, do you anticipate that report, or some kind of like,
It'd be more like in the winter. Okay, and then it could be, possibly be in time for something for
annual?
springtime meeting, but there's so much going on, we almost are hesitant to start launching on a new sewer project this coming summer when we're looking at water projects that are going to be so intrusive.
Makes sense.
And I brought, just so we can get up to speed on even the existing plan, what was next,
Yeah.
knowing that it could change, but
Yes.
people ask us and.
Right, okay, the next phase in the original plan would be to roll out sewer and complete sewering in the harbor area, and some areas of Tilden Road. And then the phase after that was to go to, I believe, the remainder of the Minot area, and then to the North Scituate area. Although I might have Minot and North Scituate in reverse order. But I've got a chart in there that anybody can stop in. Anytime they can stop in, we can talk about it.
The tree streets, right? Linden, Poplar, and, yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, we have a motion, second. Did we vote that, Kim? I can't remember.
I think you voted it. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Al.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 6 is discussion of vote for Article 13 on special town meeting.
I think they withdrew it. didn't they?
That's correct. Right. So I think that point is mute. We will be IPing it, so I don't think we need to. Yeah, could you
I think, do we move on, or did you move?
move to
Can you
indefinitely
do it on the
postpone?
floor?
Do it on the
All
floor.
right, okay.
Because it's a
We don't
petition
IP
article.
it though, do we? Because they're gonna possibly bring it back in spring, so just basically,
You move to withdraw.
All right.
that's the extension of a village overlay district for anybody who's interested.
Thanks, John. Number 7, a discussion of the water pipe replacement project, which Al just alluded to, and the cost and the impact in the town, how we want to handle paying for that. Tricia, did you hand us? We have another piece of information. What is it, water rates for other towns, neighboring towns? Is this what this is?
Yes, Selectman Vignani had asked for that earlier today, so
Okay.
that's why it's provided to you now.
Thank you. All right. Well, there's been some discussion over the last couple of weeks, the best way to go about paying for this. And I think at the advisory committee meeting, did you not vote, Maura? Right, okay, you wanted to, Mark, and thank you for coming, everyone. You wanted to hear how we were gonna, what our plan was, how to pay for it. So, I'll open that up to the board. I know what my thoughts are, and I'd have to lean towards users' fees.
Water rate.
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm
so-
sorry, yeah.
So the two choices are
Debt
raise
exclusion.
water rights or do a debt exclusion override to pay for this thing.
Right.
It sounds like the total value could be up to about $22 million. And we'll do it in stages. I think they're about $5 million or $7 million stages.
3
is
years.
what they propose.
5.5.
And just figure out what the pros and cons of each funding source are and pick one of them. As the water commissioners, we can do the rate, or whether to put it on the ballot for the voters. Yeah. And that's why I ask Al, you know, we constantly talk about this, that our water rate is much lower than our surrounding communities. And that's why Al brought this up. And I think this is even after the increases that we've had over the last several years of rate increases to do the I&I work that he mentioned and some of the other stuff. So it looks like we're in the lower third of all of our surrounding, you know, about 12 communities, averaging about $425 a year for the average user. Cohasset is up to $1,500, Hingham and Hull $1,000, Weymouth $600, Norwell and Duxbury $550 range, and then below us are Pembroke, Marshfield, and Plymouth, about $400, and, well, Plymouth is very low at $200. So, and I think part of the reason why our rate is so low is because we haven't invested in the infrastructure to maintain it, and that's why we have to do it all now, so.
So after the increase, would go from 425 to 467 on the
First year,
average
yeah,
home in
first year.
Scituate.
First year.
Yep, in the first year, and then basically the same increase the year after.
I don't know if you guys have given us any more thought on how you know.
I've got
see
some,
things
I've got a few,
differently.
the concerns I have are, we can't drag our feet on it, number one. And obviously, we don't want to raise the rates just for the sake of raising the rates, but the idea is that we have to get these pipes fixed. And I believe that if it was to go for a vote, it wouldn't be until April, is that correct, Tricia?
After April.
After. So we need to get this rolling. In the spring, we've got a plan in place, we have to have this happen. So I would lean towards, number one, would it pass on an override? Would people understand it enough to vote for it? Where we have the control and the money out of everybody's pocket is exactly the same. I don't think people are gonna be that concerned about being able to write that portion of it off on their taxes. So my feeling is that we need to get it rolling, get it done, and we can't really wait any longer. And, you know, one or two people in Scituate who have this problem are way too many people, so, and we know, and I just experienced that I'm not allowed to do laundry anymore, so. I think we need to get it done within the rates. And I think, do we have an answer on whether it could be part of the minimum, part of the fixed?
Yes, Nancy Holt, who I'd like to welcome as our new finance director, is here and provided a lot of the debt impact to you. And she can speak more directly, but she was in touch with DOR about that very question.
Okay.
And the answer was no, because we're funding water sewer debt now without
Okay.
a separate cost charge. However, did you want to add about if we created the capital stabilization for water piece, that is another mechanism?
Yeah, the town, good evening, gentlemen.
Thank you, Nancy, appreciate you
The
coming.
town
Welcome.
has the option under the stabilization fund statute to create a specialized stabilization fund just for water enterprise or specific to this project. I recommend if you did it, just to do it for water infrastructure in general, so that you could use it on an ongoing basis. And then you could put a portion of whatever the rate increase is into that stabilization fund when you set your rates.
Okay.
So it gives you a couple of different options. If you want to just address this particular project for now, that's fine. That's an option for ongoing projects if you see that the system's going to need more than just this 22 million on an ongoing basis.
So we sensed the question about calling it out as a separate charge in the bill was really in the interest of transparency, so people could actually see that was the bill, but a separate portion was perhaps going directly to capital infrastructure. By creating a capital water stabilization fund, we could still create that transparency, so people informationally would know, here's your bill, and X amount is going each year allocated to the capital stabilization fund debt structure to repay the water work.
I think Rick's concern was on conservation. That would affect if somebody starts to conserve, would that, you know, could that, the fluctuation on that could hurt us, right?
It depends. I mean, it's still gonna be, whatever the debt service is for the water that we float each year and we'll bond every 2 years, it's still gonna be reflected in everybody's bill across the board.
So we won't.
We may have to make adjustments
Yeah,
then.
more directly.
I mean, the rate would go up every year.
Right, up or down, depending.
So, yeah, go ahead.
The three things that I see that are, and this is what I was asking, I was the one that asked to get more details about the possibility of a debt exclusion override. Number one is if you do a debt exclusion override, it's for the total amount that we're looking for, presumably 22 million is what we're looking for. Benefit number one, we get the authorization from the town, presumably everybody's gonna vote for it. So that's number one, everybody gets involved and votes for it. Benefit number two, it's a debt exclusion override. After 20 years, it's paid off and it's off the books. The downside is if we increase the rates, there's gonna be a lot of people saying, you increase the rates, are the rates ever gonna be reduced? Because once you increase them, it's very hard to reduce them. So I think a lot of people might see the debt exclusion override as an option to saying, once it's off the books, it's off the books. The rates will still be low. The third benefit is there's a tax benefit to the property owners. In this case, it's charged, they can take it as a deduction on their taxes. So what they're paying for their taxes, they can also take it off on their personal taxes. And I think the final thing is it's a question of who pays for it. In this case, if we're doing a debt exclusion override, it goes to the property owner as opposed to the actual consumer. So the difference is if you own your house, well, it's going to go to you. You're the consumer. If you're renting the house, then it's going to the landlord or the owner of the property. So those are the four positives for a debt exclusion override. I think the one thing that I certainly see here is, you know, we can act right away if we end up going with the increase in the rates. We can manage it by saying, you know, we're going to phase it in instead of asking for 22 million and going out to bond it.
Right.
We can actually start with 5 million, increase the rates, go as we fix this as we go. We can get started immediately. It is more, I say, equitable to the extent of saying those people who are actually using the water, they're the ones who are going to pay for this improvement. So, yes, there may be a disadvantage for somebody who has a large family. They go through a lot of laundry. They have a lot of baths. That's true. You're going to be paying for it. But if you have water sprinklers in your yard, you're using it 2 or 3 times a week, and if it's not on private wells, then you're paying for that. So you're going to be paying for making your lawn nice and green. So you're going to pay for that. And I think Al had mentioned with Jimmy DeBarros from the Water Department 2 or 3 years ago when you came in, you said what was happening with our water supply, usually in the afternoon or early in the morning during the summer. We found that a lot of people were turning their sprinklers on at like 2 or 4 or 5 in the morning. It was drawing a lot of water. So that to me is what we're kind of dealing with back and forth. I see the rates here that you've put together, Nancy, or give us an idea. I see that, you know, 4.5% rate, you know, with doing this in 4 different phases, I think. Is that how you propose this?
On the water rates, I believe Al put that together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the worst-case scenario for an increase that I'm looking at is about 200 and, looks like, $40 on top. That would be year 8, and then slowly it goes back down. So water rates, as you presently, would go up to 240 per year, and then on top of what you're presently paying, and then would begin to go down. I think the only thing that, what I like to hear, what I heard that you were mentioning, Nancy, or Tricia, you were mentioning, is that by putting it in your water bill, that people can see that we're not just lopping it all into one amount. In other words, saying, this is your water bill, here it is. We're segregating out what's going towards the improvement. And hopefully, if we go that route, a future board would then consider, once it's paid off, to reduce the rates and get it back in line again. But that's kind of what I was toying with. And after looking over this and discussing it, I finally came to the conclusion, I think I'm inclined to say increase the water rates. After 20 years, whoever's here in 20 years, hopefully they'll reduce the rates once it's all paid off.
Rick?
Increase the water rates.
Anyone else? Tony, are you guys all set?
Oh, I'm set.
Just one quick comment, a little off subject. Al, this is similar, and That's a great idea, Nancy and Tricia, about separating in the water bill. That's, I didn't even think of that. Do you recall Paul Reedy suggesting every time we got a water meter, any new home got a water meter, the $6,500 went into a separate account? Remember that? And that was gonna be for future water exploration, expansion?
I don't remember that. I mean,
And
the rates-
I only mention that because that's what this sounds like.
Yeah, the rates, well, it may be, yeah. Right now, that doesn't happen. The rates, it just goes into the rate, it offsets future rates. So 10 more houses is $65,000 that operates the plant and.
Yeah, all right,
rates
so it does not get held separately.
That's correct. It does not get held
Just there was-
separately.
There was discussion about it.
But this idea that they brought up right now with the separate fund, it increases transparency on the bills. Everybody can see exactly what their money's going for. And there's accountability at the end of each year. We can see this is how much is in that account, this is how much we have available for coming projects, and this is how much we spent over the past year. And it increases everybody's understanding of what's going on. People come to us and they say, what are you doing? We can point exactly to it. I think it's a great idea. As Marty said, it keeps us nimble. And as John said, you know, we can wax and wane as we move forward. I really think we should just do this and really help solve the problem.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea as well. You know, there's a tax benefit that you will lose, but realize that this is,
50% of the tax, I believe, if I'm reading properly, people, the senior circuit breaker, 50% of it can still be deducted because it's a rate.
seniors, right?
Yeah, for seniors. So there is a little bit of a help there to mitigate that aspect of it.
So our water rate will go up about 50% for those middle years. And that's it's a substantial amount of money, and that's what we're talking about at this next town meeting. You know, so you know all the components of the potential increases as we look at schools and buildings and water and all that sort of stuff.
But we'll see it go down. Projects get done, the water, and if things get fixed correctly, and, you know, presumably they will. And like you said, if things get fixed quicker, then.
Yeah, I think, well, I think somebody alluded to it. You know, the reason we're in the predicament we are right now is because we didn't invest back into it. So, you know, as the first couple of years flush out, I imagine we'll have some sort of maintenance program in place to make sure that we don't get to this predicament again.
Yeah, and we're certainly not unique. I mean, this Scituate is not the least bit
The whole
unique in this.
nation.
The whole, as I mentioned before, I showed you the data on the MWRA communities, 46 communities, they average 33% of their pipes need to get ripped out and started over. So it's a more of a New England phenomenon than maybe a Midwest phenomenon because of the age of our communities and when we put public water systems in. But it's not Scituate alone is not alone in this.
And
Yes.
One thing I wanted to just say is, Al, you mentioned that Cohasset, Hingham, and Hull, they don't have their own public water supply. There's a private company that actually provides them with the water. And I met with a few of the selectmen 2 weeks ago, and they are in the midst of issues, I think litigation. The reason why I'm saying that is they're paying private water provider for it, and the pipes that they have are as old as ours in some of these towns, especially Hull. So they're in a desperate need to try to figure a way out of it, and that yet, when you look at the amount, just this year alone, Cohasset's paying $1,600. Last year's rates, or 2 years' rates, are over $1,000. So if we're able to do this, and granted, you're right, Tony, we could go up 50%, we may end up going up to 600, call it 700 for that matter. We're well below what they're at now, and we'll have clean pipes for the pipes that we've determined for the past, from 1910 to 1950, which are the cause of the problems. It'll be all remedied. So it's a huge benefit long-term for this town.
And by putting it into rates, which are based upon how much you use, you give the homeowner the opportunity to take some personal action to influence that. Low flush toilets, low use shower heads, changes in, you know, the new washing machines are much lower water consuming machines, and that's all good for conservation and green and that all, but it also helps green in the pocket by giving the homeowner the capability of influencing that. One of the things that we as a department can do, and we interviewed someone recently from another town, unrelated to this, but gave us a great idea, and that is, you know, we've been on a program to install radio read meters so that we can do the drive-by read instead of the walk through everybody's yard, over the fence and around the dogs. What they do in this other town is because they've gone years before us to radio read meters, they read every month. And by reading every month, they can give feedback to the, and they only bill quarterly. But now a resident has a once per month knowledge of what's going on, so they don't have that leak in their cellar or under their crawl space that goes on for 3 months before they get a huge water bill and are shocked and ask for an abatement. They get it much sooner than that. And also that with these radio read meters, you can detect, a radio read meter requires 1 hour of no water use, otherwise it sets a flag, and when the guy drives by, he gets a flag saying, this water meter ran all night long. Okay? And if he gets 3 consecutive readings of all night long readings, of all night long running, then they send a note to the resident saying, you may have a leaking toilet. Again, helping the customer control the amount of water they're using and therefore the cost to them.
I'm thinking more of a broken pipe to a, a seasonal home. Person's in Cambridge or Belmont. So, that'd be great. Rick?
Do we need a motion on this?
I was gonna ask
Or-
for one, even though we might not need one. What's
Sure,
the harm?
all right, well, I'll move that the funding to support Article 11, should it pass, come from water fees,
Okay.
water rates.
I'm okay with that. A motion.
Is
you have a
that
second to
sufficiently
that?
specific? Okay.
Second. And a motion second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Sort of as a segue into the next warrant article, Sean, I think as part of the presentation at town meeting, folks might want to know where it's likely the first phase of the water improvements will happen. Al's done a little work on that, and if he could just address that a little bit so we can give voters at town meeting a little bit of a roadmap, and not to steal his thunder, but he's gonna show that the first area to work in is in the harbor. He just mentioned earlier that the next phase of the sewer development project is in the harbor, and obviously we try to dovetail now water and sewer work at the same time. So I don't know if you want to speak more to that, Al or Kevin, as far as the work you're doing with Weston and Sampson. Because I think the question will come up on the floor, who's going to get it first?
Right.
The thought process from the engineering firm that's looking at it, who is out doing GISing, looking at the whole town, making sure we know where every pipe is and doing some testing of some of those pipes. But the idea being to tackle where pipes break most frequently, which is down in the high-pressure areas of the harbor and along Lighthouse Point. I know I mentioned that once before, and I saw some residents flinch. A broken pipe in the harbor causes brown water in the west end. Okay? It causes, on Captain Pierce Road where I live, I know we broke a pipe in the harbor because I get the brown water. And that's because the higher pressure pipes will be the ones that will break. Those are the oldest pipes put in, and they're all in salt water. So on that basis, the engineering firm is suggesting that would be our first phase, that along with a couple of key connector pipes that you'll see in the red drawing. For town meeting, we'll have this map and some explanation in the lobby.
So is Hazel Ave one of those roads?
Sorry?
Hazel Ave, one of those roads? Where Steinbeck Place is, and it's,
Yes, Hazel is one, I don't know, yes,
I
Hazel.
don't think we've tarred it, have we? I've only seen, oh, we have, okay, well.
Yeah, but we didn't really pay, what we did was we had already taken Hazel Avenue apart. So to get through the winter, we had to do something, so we put
That's just
paving
a
on.
base?
Yeah, so there's lipstick on Hazel Avenue,
Okay.
okay? That's not, okay.
Just one quick thought as you do that, I mean, there's another expense. All of a sudden, we've got people that live in the harbor, their water rates are gonna go up 30%, they're gonna get hit with a betterment, for sewer. We just really have to take a look at the overall expenditures that we're gonna be,
Yeah. I think the sewer will be, we're looking at sewer in a couple of years. I
Well,
don't
several
think
years
we-
out.
I don't think the town has the capacity for as
well,
much.
if we're talking about dovetailing them,
Yeah.
we're hoping, as Marty mentioned, we hope to do this soon, in the spring, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So, it's just a lot of,
Yeah.
a lot of expenditures.
A lot of planning before we do.
Well, that'll have to go to town meeting too, and if
Yeah.
folks don't want the sewer.
No,
I
but
mean,
as we start
yeah,
talking about,
You're right.
the things that are coming before the town, there's another one to consider if we're gonna be dovetailing.
Every sewer betterment, the 3 so far, have all been around $18,000 or $19,000, so you're right.
And what do you do it over 20 years?
Right, yeah.
So
A little bit
1,000,
ahead.
it's,
Right, right. Okay, thanks again. Oh, Anthony?
Yes, Anthony Antonello. I'm also a member of the advisory board. I recognize the importance of this project. Mr. Agnew and I started this program.
Anthony, why don't you come up to the microphone?
No, it's okay, replacing water mains over 15 years ago. My only problem with it is the structure of what you're intending to do. To me, this water main replacement program, it belongs in the capital improvement plan that's spelled out in your charter. That's what the charter says you will have. You will have a 5-year capital improvement plan. You'll have projects in the plan, and as they come up, they will be voted at town meeting each year. What you're doing here is you're saying you want $22 million for what? For town-wide? You really haven't narrowed it down to where you're gonna do it. You're not gonna do the $22 million in 1 year. You're not gonna do that. You're gonna phase it. So why isn't this project part of your capital improvement plan, where you come to the town every year with your capital plan, and by that time, Mr. Banger will have a study and will tell you what areas you should replace water mains in that year. It really is a capital improvement plan article, not a $32 million what? Replace water mains where? Throughout the town. Look at your charter. That's exactly what the charter says you'll do. You'll have a capital improvement plan for this type of a project. So I fully intend to say that at town meeting. Thank you.
Well, there's just a few inaccuracies that you said there. It is a phased project. There are areas that we're gonna go at first, as we just said 30 seconds ago, and it's $5 million, $5.5 million. We're
Per
just-
year, yeah.
Per year, and we hope not to have to do 22, we've been talking about this for weeks now. We hope to only have to do however much we have to do to get the brown water to go away, and then do some sort of a maintenance program after that, so.
Why do it now when you don't have the plan yet? You don't have it.
Oh, we do have the plan.
You have a study from the consultant that tells you what phases are priority phases you should do. You should come every year and say, okay, this is the next one. Here's our study.
We do have the
Here's
plan.
next
Wait a
one.
minute.
Every year, not 1 year, 32 million for what?
First of all, it's 22.
22,
All
yeah.
right, so there's another 33%.
Actually, Mr.
Wait a minute,
Antonello,
Rick, wait a
$10
minute.
million
Rick,
is a big
Rick,
difference.
Rick,
Get your numbers right.
All right, Rick, hang on, okay? There's the map, Anthony. All right, that's the first time I've seen it tonight, okay? And I intend whoever's gonna speak on that article is probably gonna know that map very, very well, all right? The reason we don't wait till till the annual town meeting in the spring is, I, for one, and I think I'm speaking for all 5 of us, wanna get this project going as fast as we can.
Absolutely.
It is not gonna be done inaccurately or incorrectly, okay? We are going to fix the worst pipes first, just like you and Rick picked out the I&I project, okay, for the sewer. We want to get the biggest bang for our buck. So this is why, we sat here all summer long and we all took not just a few phone calls. And I didn't have the answers for these people for their brown water, Anthony. I'm not gonna sit here next summer and tell those people, we could have started it sooner. So this is one project that we asked Al and Kevin to try to get up and running as fast as they possibly could. So we're just at if I'm not mistaken, out with the engineering phase, and they're producing just that information for us now, where we can get the worst pipes replaced the fastest to make the biggest impact to the residents of the town.
That's the question. What's the phase for next year? You know? What streets? How much?
Possibly the tree streets.
Possibly.
All right, Anthony, I just said,
report's
listen,
not back yet.
when I get up, if I get up and speak on town meeting, I will know. And I'm not gonna put a water line or instruct, this board is not gonna instruct DPW to replace water lines in a street that might need sewers in the next few years. So a lot of things are gonna come into account. I'm gonna defer to Tricia, because she.
Well, one thing I was just going to say is this. Anthony, I agree with Sean totally. It's the worst predicament that I've dealt with in my 7 years on the board, the most phone calls. The other thing is, tonight, we don't have the streets in front of us. We've had them the meeting that we were here, had them the meeting before, list of all the streets, the years of the pipes. We know exactly where they are. We know exactly the age of them. And unfortunately, tonight, we don't have that because that's not the issue before us. We're just discussing the articles, but I can guarantee you, whoever's gonna be standing up there will be well-versed in being able to say specifically, this is what's gonna be phase one, it's gonna be phase two, these are the streets, and that's the reason why. And I agree with Sean. I mean, this was, you know, I initially thought they were gonna say one section of town, but the sections are the priority, and you know, to be quite frank, you know, you might find that the pipes from 1910 on Cedar Point versus the pipes from 1915 on Front Street, 6 of one, half dozen other. You're gonna be hitting one at one point or the other. But that's what we do have, we do. But I appreciate you're mentioning the concept. Do you go by the capital plan, or do you do it the way that we're trying to do it? Maybe that's more of a philosophical approach to it. I understand the charter fully, but I'm saying I look at this as a major investment in the town, like seawalls or some large project, and this is like sewers, in other words, that we have to take an approach, not in a piecemeal of saying, let's go to the town every year and get approval. We want to ask the town to get it done because this is such a large issue. And you and I may disagree on that, but I'm just saying, as the approach, not on the issue, because we know it's an issue that the town has to repair and fix, but I would agree with Sean on it. But I appreciate your input.
That's not what your charter says.
Okay, Tricia,
It does not say that.
Tricia.
Your charter says you will have a.
Anthony,
You
one
gotta
second.
go back and forth. You gotta have some respect here, please, okay? We appreciate your input. We may disagree, but you gotta respect us. You disagree with us. We're letting you speak. You gotta do the same with us, okay? Thank you.
If you know where you're going next year, why don't you include, that's the project? Raise the money to do.
Anthony, it's not your turn to speak anymore. You have to let us run the meeting.
Tricia.
So, the town does have a 5-year rolling capital plan. Mr. Bangert, every single year, for the 4 years that I've been here, has asked between 2 and 4 million every single year for the water mains. We approved only $400,000 last year because the water rates could only support that level of debt with the 6.1 miles we've done in water main replacements the last 3 years. So we are following the charter. We do have a 5-year rolling capital, and that the water work that's been approved and duly reviewed by the Capital Planning Committee, this board, and advisory each year has been severely limited because of the water rates and the amount of debt we can float. And what we found is the pace of the work that we've been able to do simply hasn't been enough to address the brown water problem.
We're simply accelerating it. That's what we're doing. Right. Okay.
In the most cost-effective way. Doing it this way with this plan moving forward ends up saving the town money over the long run, rather than doing it at an ad hoc, willy-nilly basis as we need it year in or year out. This plan is an excellent plan. I fully support it.
Thanks, Rick. All right, we do have a motion in a second. We voted that, correct? All right, thank you. Agenda item number 8 is the assignment of these articles to the special town meeting.
Mark?
I'll take article, we could,
Hold on, just
And I think, Mr. Chair, do
Typically
you
the-
typically take the first
Couple? Yes.
3 or 4, because they're more or less business accounting issues?
first 12.
You could do the first 12.
I'll do 13. I'll do 13.
I didn't tell you guys I'm going on vacation. All right. I think.
Well,
All right,
I would
Article
certainly-
1, 2, 3.
Wait, hold on. Sean is 1. Sean, fiscal year 2013 unpaid bills.
Yes.
Article 3.
Tony, jump in wherever, if you want. I know you're the finance guy. You want, I'll keep going until,
Could you please close the door? Hey, thank you, Mark.
Can we talk a little bit about Article 1 first?
sure, yep.
I think the sense of the board was that the board chair give an overview of the public facilities projects and what the town has coming, hopefully, in the next 2 to 3, 4 years with Gates School. I didn't also know if it was an opportunity, Tony, as chair of the Financial Forecasting Committee, to give a brief update on the finances, which typically we do at the annual anyway, but given that this is a town meeting where we're spending quite a bit of money, it might make sense for you to double team each other, if that made sense.
Yep, that'd be great. So he and I will speak on article, the first article, okay?
And then there could be other boards, advisory, Mark just left, or
Right. That
Maura
might
just left,
stand-
she may,
stand-
yeah.
Yes, and they
Yes,
typically do that.
and I think I had that conversation with Maura as well, that she might, as the new chair.
All right.
So you'll do 2, the unpaid bills,
Okay, if-
and the reconciliations, 3. Do we all want, there's 12, so if we each do 4, that'll,
Well, it's,
We're down to 11 now.
I think the
11?
easiest thing is,
You're good at
when
math, I
somebody
think.
gets up, they
Just
handle
stay there.
whatever four, instead of
Right.
having it's like
all right, I'll do 4.
whack-a-moles going up and
Okay.
down, sitting up
Tony,
and
the
sitting
motion
down.
and that's gonna change?
Okay.
on which one?
Article
The
4.
storm one, for the third time.
Yeah, so that's Tony?
Changing.
Why don't I do
Yeah.
4 and 5 then?
Tony's 5. That's withdrawn, Tony?
It's withdrawn.
Okay, then I'll do that one. Why don't I do
What's withdrawn?
5?
Five.
So why don't I do 6?
Golf.
All right,
There
so
you go.
Tony is,
So you'll do,
So someone's still gonna have to move no action on 5, so that can be you, and then you'll do 6.
so you'll do 1, 2, 3, I'll do 4, 5, 6.
okay.
I'll do 7 and 8, unless someone else wants to. but-
No, it's- I mean, I'll
John, you want to do 9?
do 9, I have no problems with that. I'll be happy to do,
10?
10
It's
if
up
you
to
want
you.
to.
Why don't,
I'll do 10.
It doesn't
if
matter
you
to
want.
me.
Doesn't matter to me.
Well, why'd you let Marty do 9 and 10?
I was gonna do 11.
Oh, you do 11? Okay.
And I think that that's the only one I would do, because it's gonna be pretty involved, I think.
So who's doing, John, I
And I
have
was
for
gonna do
9,
12.
who's gonna do 10?
I'll do 9 and 10.
Okay. Marty's up for number 11.
Yep.
And that leaves 12.
I'll do 12.
Okay.
Who?
I am.
John?
Yep.
12, okay.
I got 7 and 8.
13's withdrawn. Thank you. I will send you updated motions and an updated background information, since there's been some changes since the last one I gave to you.
Tricia, can we ask a quick question? Why is 5?
Why is it withdrawn?
Because our new finance director slash town accountant reminded me that creation of a revolving fund can only be done at an annual town meeting. So,
Good reason.
that is
sorry.
why.
Back up?
And I knew that, but I forgot it.
Is that gonna affect it?
No,
Oh,
it'll
yes,
be okay. Because we'll do it at, the annual town meeting in April. and
No,
it'll
but I
be
mean,
for
as far
July
as
1.
being open and maybe be able to use around the holidays and stuff, is that
No,
gonna
we'll
affect
just have
that?
to eat the first 6 months of it for cleaning and stuff. It shouldn't
Okay.
be a problem.
That's all right. Very good.
Now, were they going to come in at the next meeting,
That's what I thought.
the next one, to talk about Pier 44?
Who?
Kevin Kelly?
Was it Kevin going to
Kevin
come in
Kelly
and tell
was
us
gonna
what
give
the
us a-
status
I think he
is?
was gonna give you an update. Yeah, did I give you that, Kim, yet?
I think you did.
I did get a copy of,
Just gonna
Yeah.
ask the same thing.
We can,
just gonna
he
say.
can still come in, Connie.
just seems like it's taking forever for some reason.
Oh, yeah, I want him to give you an update of where we're at.
So at the next
Absolutely.
meeting.
November 12th.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, because we want to get it open.
Carpeting, is it being patchwork?
That's what I
or
thought we did. Yeah.
Carpeting? I mean,
All right, all set, okay, agenda item number 9 is an acceptance of a gift.
yes.
Mercury sailboat to the Recreation Department.
Move the Board of Selectmen accept, move the Board of Selectmen vote to accept on the town's behalf a Cape Cod Mercury sailboat number 446 for the Recreation Department sailing program. This generous gift was made by Martha Blanchard Twigg in memory of Gordon Jenkins and Bob Francis, who started the sailing program, and in honor of Mary King and Elizabeth Leach Welch, 2 of the program's first instructors.
Second?
Motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you.
Can we send a thank you? I always do
Aye,
it, Tim.
thank you.
These are always such a
generous.
great,
Very
such a
nice.
great gift, a great thing.
Agenda,
Item
Rick, you
10?
all set?
Item 10?
Yes, let's see, appointments. Some user members for the Public Buildings Commission.
Move the Board of Selectmen appoint the following individuals as user members of the Public Building Commission. From the Police Department, Chief W. Michael Stewart, the primary member, and Sergeant Mark Thompson, the alternate member. From the Fire Department, Deputy Chief John Murphy as the primary member, and Chief Richard Judge as the alternate member.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, agenda item number 11 is our regular report from the town administrator.
Thank Thank you. I actually have 4 items tonight that I want to go over, kind of a lengthy report. Today, I attended a 2-hour meeting in the town of Marshfield hosted by Representative Cantwell. There was staff from Senator Markey's office, Senator Warren's office, Congressman Keating's office, and Congressman Lynch's office to talk about our appeals that we submitted to FEMA. I think you received in your email earlier this week a letter that Senator Warren and Markey co-sponsored that the entire delegation signed regarding Bigot Waters and the FEMA maps. I have emailed to you that was scanned that I received this morning from Senator Warren's regional director. Her querying of the FEMA director at a hearing last week about the FEMA maps. And her direct questions to that gentleman were as a direct result of the issues that we've raised in town here in Marshfield as far as the hardships that have been faced by Scituate and Marshfield and some other communities. I forwarded to Dave Ball as well. It's pretty interesting. There is some legislation that's being filed, additional legislation to delay the rollout of Bigot Waters over a 4-year period, and also to reimburse homeowners and hopefully municipalities for some of the costs they've incurred for an appeals. But basically, Marshfield and Scituate sort of shared our issues with the appeals, the data, the assumptions made, and sort of the burden placed on homeowners and towns in trying to address this. We understand that I believe Chatham has filed an appeal as well, and I think one more Cape community. But they are starting to get phone calls from other communities now because it also affects rivers and creeks, and folks in the western part of the state are contacting them. One of the issues we've been challenged with, and the MMA informed us, is Marshfield. They said they were only hearing from Marshfield and Scituate. And essentially, we found out that answer today from Congressman Lynch's office is that most communities got new maps in 2009, and the impact to those communities was very nominal, 5, 6 new properties in. The maps that were rolled out to us, specifically some of Plymouth County, used a whole different mathematical approach. And that is why we have been so heavily impacted, that the maps those other communities received had a whole different methodology than the ones we are receiving now. The federal delegation and certainly Representative Cantwell have been unbelievably helpful and have really are really aware of this issue now, I think. Senator Hedlund's office was in touch with me over the weekend. Senator Hedlund is filing a bill to assist communities with the CRS rating system, because in lieu of these FEMA maps and the Bigot Waters, a lot of communities are suddenly interested in doing the community rating system. We, of course, have been doing the community rating system for years. Marshfield's trying to restart it. So we were able to provide information to his office as to the costs we've been incurring as far as the brochure we need to develop, mailing to every household, and then trying to get some staff time costs in so that he can file a bill to reimburse communities for that. So even though the appeal deadline has passed, there's still quite a bit of work going on around that, but I think, we expressed our thanks to the federal delegation in the work that they're all continuing to doing. But again, it's still a lot of education and processing to make folks understand that. So I wanted to share that with you. And there's a copy of that legislation also included in it didn't scan that into you, but I'll get a copy of the new legislation, federal legislation. Coastal Coalition's been great on the national lobbying effort to deal with the amendments to the Bigot Water, so there's a lot happening. It's still not passed, it's still in the developmental stages, but we're trying to do that, so a lot there. The second thing I want to tell you is that, as you can see, I'm working off a tablet tonight. I'm sort of the beta tester to figure out if you have any questions, I can help you instead of having our IT director sit here and do it. So I expect in the next month you will all have your tablets. Kim has scanned the entire notebook into me, and then you'll be able to follow along.
Don't you have enough to do without trying to teach us?
Well, I didn't say I could answer your question if you got jammed up, but,
okay.
and Bill will probably be here the first night anyway, but, so anyway, that's what we're moving to. It'll make Kim very happy, and as we all know, a happy Kim is a happy everybody. So, and save her a tremendous amount of time.
It's all on
and,
you, Kim.
So we're trying to do that, and then Bill will also be here November 12th anyway to give you a preview of our new website, which you may have seen. I just want to caution folks that our website is still under construction. We're getting some emails saying, oh, I like the old one better. But each day, you can imagine the amount of material we're trying to bring over from the old site to the new site. At the end of this, all staff will have new email. You'll have all new email. Our new domain is situatema.gov. So that means we are hosting in-house our website now. If we lose power or electricity, you know, our generator will kick in and we'll be able to get stuff out, or not if the generator goes down. But, so that's really a huge issue, and Bill has just done a superlative job of doing that at the same time. The other thing that I just want to alert the board to and discuss a little is I received a copy of, I guess, a flyer that's going to be distributed. It's from a group called the Friends of the Scituate Seniors about the inadequacy of the proposed space at the Gates School. And there's a little bit of misinformation in it, and I don't know where this document's going to go. But I attended a Public Facilities Master Plan Committee along with Al, Kevin Kelly, and Rick Murray last week, and one of the questions was that the original plan for the senior center at Gates School was 9,000 square feet, and it was reduced to 6,700, and there was concern about that because new senior centers are more like 10, 20,000,
20,000,
24,000 square feet. And so there were some questions around that. And you know, we sort of reminded folks that the Gates programming, the schematic design, actual architectural plans for Gates really hasn't even been done. That was just a rendering that the board asked Durkee Brown to do to see if the myriad of town needs we had could actually fit. And there was an original plan where it showed the senior center was 9,000 square feet. And I would remind the board that the architect for Durkee Brown took the original plans from the 2007 Branch Street site and took all that programming and placed it in the Gates School as a rendering. And if we do move into schematic design, obviously everybody will be involved in looking at that space. But one of the important things I just wanted to inform the board about was that the 9,000 square feet to 6,700 square feet was because the systems, of which 25 to 30% of that building in the 2007 design was for a utility room, a mechanical room, and all the guts of a building, heating, boiling, you know, boiler HVAC to run a building. All of those systems are already in the main part of Gates and therefore do not need to be in the senior center wing. So there wasn't a reduction of programming, estimated programming rendering. It was because all of those mechanical things are already present in the main portion of the Gates building. So, you know, it's important to have accurate information. Gates is still a moving target because we don't know what's going to happen with the middle school, and obviously we would need to do schematic design and then full architectural, of which all the stakeholders would be involved. So I just wanted to make sure people had an understanding of that as we move forward. And to that end, I think given some of the conversation that we had at the public facilities meeting Tuesday night, I would really recommend that the board meet with the Council on Aging Board of Directors to sort of share this information that we had. I spoke with Florence Choate, the director, today, and she welcomed that as a really good step in the right direction. The board has, at their pleasure, they can attend if they're interested. The next meeting is November 13th. However, I already previously had on my schedule a meeting with the chair and vice chair of the Council on Aging Board of Director for 3 o'clock on Thursday. If there are board members willing to attend that meeting and have that discussion, should there be any questions at town meeting. I did have Kim post today in the event that the board had an interest in doing that as a safety measure, so we complied with the open meeting law. So I just wanted to toss that out and solicit your thoughts on this item.
Great, thanks.
I got a couple of things to add to that, Tricia. I've gotten about a half a dozen calls, and lately, for the last week, I've been a little bit tied up, but some of the concerns are, number one, I agree with what you're saying, is as far as some of the areas, I don't think they're in the understanding that some of that area was going to be used by systems. But the concern is that as they're looking at some of the, if you look at the design and layout of some of these offices, I can't imagine that they'd be so small that they wouldn't even be worth building, to be honest with you. And the second thing is that the number did decrease, obviously, because of what you say with the systems. But on the other hand, their claim is that the recreation part of it actually increased in size, whereas the Council on Aging decreased.
Florence mentioned that to me today, and I'm glad you brought that up because I want to mention it. When Durkee did the original space allocation for the Recreation Commission, they did it in a vacuum, and they didn't have an understanding of the current operations of our recreation center. So we have a very large daycare, what's that program called at the recreation?
Little people.
Little People program that was completely left off the rendering for the Gates School. So what happened between the first and second reiteration that the board saw is Ashley Prester from Durkee Brown actually went to see the Recreation Commission space that they currently have at the high school, and that is why the square footage increased, because that entire piece was left off. So that was an actual error on their part, and not, I think, what's been perceived as some departments having more input than others. There was an error in the original assumption on Durkee Brown's part. And that is, again, why I think it would behoove us to have a conversation with the senior centers, so those kinds of questions
think it's a
can be
good
asked
idea.
and answered.
Because like the Department of Elder Affairs, they look at our numbers, and they look at the aging population in Scituate, and their recommendation is upwards of closer to 20,000 square feet because of the number of seniors.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's the argument of, well, nobody's using the senior center now, but then again, who would,
But I think what's missing from that equation is there's a realm of possibility that still exists, because there's not a shovel going in the ground for a few years, albeit that's not as soon as anybody would like it. But if they need more square footage, then we need to explore the possibility of adding on to that wing, which is, again, all things are possible. All we did is say, can we put these things in Gates? How much do you think it will cost? But that's all we did. It cost us $14,000 to do the full structural for the rest of that building, and just give us an idea. I agree with you that the titles and all those things, and Florence suggested today, it just should have been left blank.
Correct.
Because, again, it was just sort of trying to give a 10,000 feet view of something.
People look
so
at it,
I would
it's
really
in
encourage
concrete, yeah.
a dialogue to sort of address those
think it's a
things.
good idea.
I'm just gonna say one thing. I mean, I think we instructed Durkee Brown when they gave us a choice of a couple. I think it was drawing D, if I can recall, and that called for lopping off the C-wing. We haven't done that yet, so I mean, it might not be the prettiest addition on the building, but, something possibly could be done with that. And there's another 5,000 or 6,000 square feet. I can't remember what the C-wing is off the top of my head, but
But I think the dialogue would help a lot.
that's, I'll try, and so three of us can attend the meeting, and we won't be in.
On Thursday?
Right.
Great, thank you.
All right.
And the last thing that I want to pass out is, I think there's five there. I attended a meeting in Representative Cantwell's office, I don't know, last Wednesday, and there was a staff member from the Department of Transportation, and we were able to talk about next steps in the use restriction change for Pier 44. So Representative Cantwell's aware of that. He has not filed legislation yet, as the board requested, because he wants to see if he can avoid doing that and come to some agreement with MBTA. So that's in progress. But one of the things that he shared with me while I was there was he had received about 27 letters from seventh graders in Mrs. Jennifer O'Malley's class at Gates School, about what you would tell the government. And he shared them with me because he said 95% of them were at the local level, and I can't do anything about them. So I jotted them all down, and I thought that I would share with you some of the issues that the students had raised. And as you can see, a lot of them are thinking the same way as their older residents in town as far as traffic safety, graffiti, litter, and some other broader issues like gun control, driver tests for seniors.
Extend lunch period.
Reduce the price of lunch.
Crosswalks, a lot of things about safety in the harbor, boat ramps and wherever, so I did them up for you, so I thought the board might be interested in seeing them. And that's all I have.
That's awesome. Bring back the
Right.
train. Run the train on weekends. That's great. Wow. Thank you very much, Tricia. Next agenda item is other business correspondence, and then we'll vote the minutes. I will take the correspondence first. I think we might have a couple of things.
I have one thing.
All right, if you're not worn out, Marty.
Nope, I'm good. This is a letter addressed to Ms. Vincasey and the Scituate Board of Selectmen, Kevin Cafferty. I'm writing to commend the efforts of our town engineer, Kevin Cafferty. Finally, after 40 years of anxiously waiting, my home was recently connected to the town sewer. It took a long time to complete the project, which included new water, gas, and sewer piping, as well as the repaving of the streets. Although there were times of inconvenience which we suffered through, my neighbors and I all marveled at the work ethic and efficiency of the mannerly team of Albany's company workers. Throughout the process, Mr. Cafferty, our town engineer, remained informative, kind, and attentive. He swiftly addressed our many questions and concerns in a patient, professional, and very courteous manner. We are so fortunate to have such a proficient, competent man of integrity working for our town. His management made this daunting undertaking endurable. I personally am grateful to him. Signed, Mary Ann Callahan, 502 Hatherley Road.
Thank you. There's one other piece of,
No,
Want me to read it?
sure.
This one is addressed to Mark Patterson, the harbor master. Dear Mark, please accept this donation on behalf of PJ Steverman Golf Classic, Steverman family and friends of Scituate Recreation. This gift is in the amount of $5,200 and is to spend on the purchase of life jackets and the storage of life jackets in the town of Scituate. We're happy to be able to provide this support for such a great cause and promote boating safety in Scituate. And this is from Anna Steverman Shea. So thank you very much to Steverman family and that foundation. They have a great golf tournament every year. I know we've played in a couple times, and a ball drop, and it's great to see them donating it back to the community.
very nice. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Marty. I'll go to other business. I'll give you guys a break. Rick?
Yeah, the only thing I have here in the sort of the feel-good category is I've got a couple good friends down in Wheeler Park, and in particular, one of them, I think a month doesn't go by without her saying what a good job the staff do down there. Just replacing light bulbs for everybody and maintaining the infrastructure and just being very pleasant to work with. They're replacing all the boilers and things down there and water pipes and a lot of things right now. And she says the worker guys there are all very pleasant to deal with. They go out of their way. They help her carry groceries up the stairs when she needs it and even when she doesn't need it. And I just wanted to pass on to Kathy DeMarsh and her team down there. I'm sure it's the case at the other facilities as well. But, you know, my good friend happens to be at Wheeler Park, and honestly, I hear probably once a month, she just says, you know, what a great testament for the town and what you're doing to help out the citizens, particularly many of them elderly and in medical need and so on. And she says it's so good to see all the effort we're doing on behalf of the seniors and everybody else in the town.
I live at Wheeler Park and I second that motion.
It's good to hear. Well, you started off by saying I live at Wheeler Park. I was a little worried. But no, that's great to hear. Excellent. Thank you.
Anything else, Rick?
That's it
That
for
do
me.
it?
That's it for me.
John?
Halloween in the harbor from 4 to 5:30. It's going to be Thursday, sponsored by the Scituate Chamber of Commerce. Also, the merchants are participating in it. So the road will be shut down. Just be aware of that. Avoid it if you're not going to be in the harbor. If you're in the harbor, please be careful. Kids are going to be out. It's Halloween night. I'm anticipating it's going to be probably a nice night, so just be cautious.
On
enjoy
all
it.
the streets.
And all the streets, exactly. So that's the first item. The second item is next Tuesday, don't forget, we have a special town meeting. It's the 4th.
Monday.
Monday, I take that back. So make sure you're there at 7 o'clock. I did say the date, though. I said the 4th, so it is the 4th. But it is Monday, so just please remember that. Please come out. We'll try to make it short and sweet. And finally, least we forget, don't forget, the following, on the 11th, it's Veterans Day. The American Legion will be having an event at the GAR, that's the Grand Army of the Republic on Country Way near Ronnie Schoen's, at 11 o'clock in the morning. So just if you're around and you're off, head on down. It's a nice event. That's it.
Bouncing back to Rick, did you forget something?
Yeah, maybe you know the answers, but I'm just curious, we have a bunch of people in the audience.
Well, I asked,
So
I
I think-
wrote a note to Tony, they're probably students.
I was just
might
gonna
guess.
ask, you know,
Something
what's-
Type of a
We
government project.
love your presence, but we're curious as to,
Yeah, tell us what
What's going
class,
on?
and tell us what you might have gotten from this tonight.
Well, we're in AP government at the high school, and we need like government community service hours, so like we do different things like volunteer to like work on gym camp, those kind of things. And this is just like to learn about like local government, so it's just like.
Excellent.
oh, that's great.
Great.
Well, welcome.
Yes, welcome, thank you. All right, feel free to come in anytime, sit up front, you know.
Go Scituate.
Back to Marty, other business, if you have anything.
I do, actually. I hope I'm not stealing Sean's, but we've been, First Friday is a very enjoyable event for everybody, and we've had some issues lately, and I actually saw some at my last First Friday with alcohol. Store owners are having wine and beer and things inside the stores. Obviously, you know, there's nothing wrong with that, but we're seeing it filtering out onto the sidewalks. And I saw people walking around with full glasses of red wine and, you know, try to tell them that it was against the law. But I just think that if everybody understands that this is Scituate, not Las Vegas, you can't really go out onto the streets and Front Street, crossing streets with open containers. So I just, you know, we're trying to address it. We don't want it to go away. It's a great night, but we really need to curb that. So that's all I have.
I was gonna meet with some of the merchants. I've been in touch with the chamber president, the chief of police and myself, to address that.
Good, good.
Just, you know, those that may not know that it's going on,
Right,
you know, make
right.
them aware of it. We don't
Well, just so
wanna
everybody
wait for an
understands, you know,
accident to
that
happen.
they can't, you know, they can't be doing that, that's all, so.
Thank you. Tony, how about an update?
Yeah, just, well, we'll get to that later. Let's go slow. First with the business stuff, Tricia brought up the FEMA stuff earlier, and I just wanted to give a quick shout out to the coalition groups and Dave Ball, and really the effort that they did along with Marshfield really had a huge impact across the nation in terms of what's happening with this Biggest Water Act. And like Tricia said, there's a federal, I don't know what the correct word is, but a vote going on to try and postpone that for 4 years. It hasn't passed yet, but it's a huge step, and Scituate did play a huge part of that, and those groups that really did it, and Jim Cantwell and the rest of the representatives there, you know, really did the right thing for people in the whole country. Course event is this Saturday. Thanks, John. So if a huge, very well-attended event, the Course Foundation does a ton of things for challenged children and different programs that the town runs. So if you have the opportunity to go there, go. It's a great time. I went to the FACTS meeting earlier last week, and that's the group that was before us before that got the grant for 5 years of stuff. The police chief was there, and a bunch of the members there, and just want to update you on some of the stuff they're doing there. You know, they're trying to take that after program of the football games and extend that into the basketball season as well, so that there's stuff for teenagers. They have so many different programs going on for parents, and all different groups. It seems like every month there's a program where you can get involved and learn things about drug awareness and different things about you know, how to gain information on different addictions and stuff. And they're going to they have a nice website that has it up, but if you have the time to look at it and get involved with the program, just great. And that was a very impressive meeting. And then, as Sean alluded to, the sports. Our high school football team is playing Friday night in Holliston. They made the playoffs, went undefeated in their conference, and they are playing them for, I think we're actually Division IV, in their little round-robin thing, so that's great if you happen to be in Holliston. And then the girls' soccer team and boys' soccer team are both in the playoffs as well. The girls were actually ranked number 9 in the state. I think it's the best season they've ever had, and they'll probably have 1 or 2 playoff games here, and the boys may have 1 playoff game here as well. So there'll be activities going on at the state. I'm not sure about some of the other sports. Field hockey's also going on. Cross-country did well as well, and the golf team just wrapped up their season. So there's lots of stuff going on. If you see the lights on, go down to the field and watch it.
Thank you. John?
Just, I forgot, when you mentioned Coors, there's also the Fireman's Ball, which benefits scholarship. That's Friday night. So if anybody's interested at the Barker Tavern, they do a great event, the firemen, and just wanted to also remind people of that. Sorry.
Thank you. Right, the only thing I have is just to mention that the treasurer collector's office, normally town hall's closed at 11:45 on Fridays, and Pam's office is gonna be open all day. Tax bills are due November 1st. It should be open till 4. Just wanna
Thank
make
you,
that
Pam.
announcement.
That's nice.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
And I just wanted to mention that the staff has asked if they could wear Red Sox regalia tomorrow, and I have allowed that, so.
Absolutely.
We should have some interesting clothing
All right.
choices
okay.
tomorrow if you see that.
And do you have to wear a costume on Thursday?
That we haven't been asked yet.
She may be asked that tomorrow.
Well, you might have to wear Red Sox.
Yeah,
I was gonna say
exactly.
Red Sox back-to-back, maybe.
Yeah, it's gonna be a busy week in Boston, that's for sure, with every team playing, if I'm not mistaken, right? Okay, all right, we've covered correspondence. How about the minutes?
Move the Board of Selectmen vote to accept the regular session minutes of July 23rd, 2013, October 7th, and October 15th, 2013.
Second?
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
And finally, motion to move to
Wait.
adjourn?
Nope,
adjourn,
move the Board of
sorry.
Selectmen vote to accept executive session
sorry.
minutes for October 1st, 2013, without
Second.
release.
I have a motion and a second
Second.
for those. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Move the Board of Selectmen vote to adjourn the meeting at 8:41 PM and sign documents.
Second
All
that.
right, motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.